Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and as you saw from our introduction, we are going to talk about a new year with new ideas. And what kind of year and idea do you ask? Well, you'll find out in a moment. But first, I want to thank you for tuning in this evening. You are welcome to email me anytime, day or night, at talk@bcattv.org should you have an idea for a future episode or just have a question for either my guest, whom you will meet momentarily, or one of my previous guests, or just want to say hi. It's there. I would like to thank the crew for this evening. Chris Flaherty, one of the staff members here, makes sure that us volunteers get everything running smoothly. And we also have Christina Nikitas and Gwyneth McNamee, who have volunteered to give up their Wednesday evenings to come hang out at BCAT. And for the three of them, I am very grateful for their contributions. And of course, I would like to thank my husband, Paul, for staying home for Daddy Date Night, even though one kid's at band camp and the other kid's here. You might notice if the camera goes to a wide shot that I have a nice little bench. Had a little bit of surgery, so I'm not allowed to bend my knee or drive. So we are kind of winging it as we go along tonight. So, Paul, Daddy Date Night. Okay, we're good. So now I would like to introduce you to my wonderful guest, whom you might already know. If not, you will get to know him much better in the next hour or so. Tim McMahon is the brand new principal at Marshall Simonds Middle School. Yay!
Very excited, Linda. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I mean, you know, you like hit the ground running.
Was there another option?
Hadn't really thought about that,
No,
but
correct.
I'm like, you know, BCAT already talked to you.
Yeah,
I know
they
that
were
other
in
media
early.
outlets.
They were in early, yeah.
And you're doing your coffee
Meet and greets.
Meet and greets.
Coffee on meet and greet. You know, I have kind of misleading coffee. I've been putting out water instead because it's been evenings. It's been hot, so I figure water and treats, sugary treats, are better options than coffee.
yeah.
Right?
Nobody will say no to food.
No, I've noticed
Especially
that.
if it's got,
it has
high
not
sugar
gone to
content.
waste. It's been a very good investment getting
Excellent.
sweets for those nights. Yeah, but it's been great. No, I mean, I have one more meet and greet Thursday evening, the 15th.
Okay.
Is our final meet and greet of the summer. And then beyond that, we've had some other folks reach out about having some private tours and just
And
some
then
other
you're going
parents.
to change your email, change your phone, and change the locks on the school so nobody
Absolutely,
can
I'll
find you.
change everything about it. Yeah, the window dressings from head to toe. No, it's been a whirlwind, but it's been awesome. It really has been, But it's the honeymoon phase,
I love it.
I'm looking
because the
forward.
students have
No,
shut up
and
yet.
you cannot. Yeah, you're right. You can't really get it. You can't gauge anything until the reason we're there is for the kids. So looking forward to having a building full of kids in 2 weeks. That'll be fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Okay, before we get into the new school year,
Yes.
can we back up a little bit?
How
and
far? Where are we going?
How far do you want to go? Where you grew up,
Sure.
how you came, or where you went to school is optional, but how you came to the Burlington area and what made you decide to go into the field of education.
That's a lot. Okay.
In 20 minutes or less.
All right. So, grew up in Waltham, just a few miles away.
Okay.
My family had been there for a generation or so. So spent my time in Waltham, grew up as a kid, went to Waltham High School, graduated.
But now there's going to be a new Waltham High School.
It is state of the art. My nephew's going to be a ninth grader next year at the new high school. And
Is it open yet?
it's due to open in about 2.5 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I know, tangent number one.
No, that's fine. But no, tremendous. I'm psyched for that. It's still my hometown, so I still root for them, except we play sports against Burlington. But no, so I grew up in
Smart
Waltham,
man.
went to Waltham High School, graduated, went to St. Michael's College in Vermont for my undergrad. Great experience being up in northern Vermont. Nice
Did you
4 years.
become a skier?
Never once have I
or-
put on skis. Nope, I didn't. I played baseball up there, and I knew that my athletic prowess wouldn't do well on the mountains. So did 4 years
nice.
there, came back, and was able to kind of land a long-term sub job at my old high school, teaching at the time U.S. history and sociology.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and then
So is that kind of what you wanted to teach?
I don't know.
initially?
I always wanted to teach. I knew that. I
Okay.
knew I wanted to teach from the time I was probably middle school, early high school. I knew I wanted to teach. I wrestled a bit with, do I want to teach English or history? I liked both those topics. History just always kind of came naturally and somewhat easy because you're telling a story and following a story, right? But I always loved to write, so it was on the back of my mind.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, and my mom was an educator, so it felt like a nice career path. And early on, selfishly, summers off seemed appealing as well, you know. But no, I was able to, you know, in my early 20s, I was teaching middle school, coaching high school baseball and basketball. After a couple of years of middle school, I went to teach at the high school in Waltham. Ended up teaching 9th grade world history,
Okay.
which was great. The content was awesome. It was really like post-Renaissance Enlightenment up until the modern era, European perspective. Loved the content, taught that for 10, 11 years.
Wow.
Somewhere along the way, I started teaching psychology at the honors level and then AP Psych. And then somewhere, I don't know, around 2011 or 12, decided to pursue another degree and get a master's in administration.
Oh, okay.
Something I hadn't really planned on. I was coaching and teaching, and I was really loving that lifestyle and still kind of revel in that a bit, but kind of caught the administrative bug and had some opportunities in Waltham to fill in during some maternity leaves and long-term absences for other administrators I worked with. And then in 2015, I got a chance to be an associate principal at Waltham High.
Cool. So you never really traveled far from...
No, to start my admin career, no.
okay.
I was always kind of there. And my wife and I had owned a condo in Waltham initially. Eventually, she's not from New England, so the idea of having this hometown root thing didn't really matter much to her. So
Okay.
we ended up moving, spent a couple years in Woburn before settling in Burlington back in 2018.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we've been here for 6 years, and it's been awesome. And
Excellent.
yeah, so when I just spent a couple of years as an administrator in Waltham. I did 4 years there, and it was a cool setup because it was a house system. So you got the kids as 9th graders and kept them all 4 years. So that was your class.
That's like looping
Yep.
on steroids,
Correct.
kind of.
And you had the same adjustment counselor. You had the same administrative, secretarial staff 4 years. It was awesome, really cool. I had about 380 kids that I got to know very, very well over those 4 years. And then in the spring of 2019, an opportunity came for me to pursue a principal job at North Middlesex Regional High School, which is out in Townsend, Mass.
Okay.
So those of you scoring at home, it's about 30 miles from here.
Okay.
Route 3, you can go Route 3 north, cross over to either 119 or 113, or you can go Route 40 through Westford and Tingsboro.
Ah, okay.
Anyways,
out there.
gorgeous area, and spent the past 5 years working there. Loved it. Great people, great community, great leadership. Yeah, really an awesome experience. But then the opportunity to come closer to Burlington came, and
We were talking about that earlier. Why do administrators change jobs? Well, commuting is
community's a part of it.
good reason.
Yeah, and families tied to that. For me, I definitely reveled my opportunity at North Middlesex and have left some great folks there. That was hard to leave. I think it's hard when you get attached to any building. If you're invested in it, it's hard to leave. I was fortunate that I didn't commit to Burlington until after the school year was over. So I could avoid a lot of that.
Did they know? Did anybody know you?
No,
were
I kept it pretty quiet.
Oh, okay.
I kept it quiet. It's because the attention shouldn't be on me; it should be on the students we have. And we had graduation season, and the last thing you want to do is make it about anything but the seniors, So it's a little self-serving, but hard to leave. But I'm so happy to be here now, though. I mean, it's just been the past month and a half, 2 months, just going through the process and meeting the folks at Marshall Simonds, working with Dr. Conti, Dr. Chen, and some just amazing folks at Marshall Simonds has been great. So, does that answer your first question of the night?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And a whole lot more, of course. Then I'm like going on all these tangents.
We can do tangents. I told you before, we can do tangents. It's fine.
You had been in high school.
Yep.
So, what made you want to jump back to middle school? Is it a huge difference?
Yes and no, to be totally honest.
Okay.
Working with teachers, supporting students, dealing with the day-to-day minutiae and the milieu of in education administration, that carries over to most educational environments. The student population is very different, though, right?
Okay.
6 through 8 is different than 9 to 12. Okay.
You think?
Yep. You can make an argument there are some mature 7th and 8th graders and immature 9th and 10th graders, but the disparity
Overall.
between 6 and 12 is significant.
Yeah.
If I'm being fully transparent, distance was a big factor in my decision to come this way. I always knew that at some point I'd want to be closer to home as my kids are getting older. I do have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader, and I have one more year of pre-K, and they're getting more involved in activities around Burlington. You know?
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes opportunities present themselves at times you're not expecting them, and I'd always kept middle school in my mind as a place that I had started, and I always felt that any good educator should have to teach middle school for a couple of years, because it's a challenge. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it's a challenge. You know, those 3 years are significant. A lot of changes happen for kids, and it's a cool time. It's an impressionable time, and having gone through COVID and navigated high school administration during that window.
Yeah, just to reinvent the entire educational system of the United
on the fly.
States.
There's no handbook for that, but no, and really looking at like the one thing we've been working on in my previous district was something called Portrait of a Graduate or Portrait of a Learner, and kind of looking at from backtracking from grade 12 to kindergarten, what skills should we be helping students have by the time they finish high school, right?
Okay.
And those skills could be tied to technology, interpersonal, academic, and through that dialogue, I started to really think like, well, what's the connection between high school and middle school? You know, what skills do we expect kids to leave 8th grade with and come to high school with, and then therefore build upon? Everything should be scaffolded from kindergarten to 12th grade. What are we doing collaboratively as a district, as a educational system to build those skills?
Right.
And that kind of, inevitably led to some dialogue with my middle school counterparts in my previous district around the skill building.
Okay.
And then from that came the social emotional piece of it, well, maturity, accountability, respect, and how we could foster that. And that became kind of a trigger, like, could be an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
But also, my kids are getting older, and the idea of working with kids that are around my kids' age and being part of that dynamic also.
You're living it now.
Right. Yeah. I've always fancied myself. Oh, my kids, when they get to be high school age, I'll be a great dad. I'll know all the tricks. But no, I mean, I don't know. There's never a perfect time to leave a job you like. There's never a perfect time to start a new job. But an opportunity to be in Burlington, where I know education is valued. And the resources are there that not every district has. And having been to a couple of different places now, being someplace where the community supports the schools somewhat unconditionally, and that parents are active participants in the students' education, that's a big draw in Burlington. And I think having been other places, having lived other places, just in the area and seeing what's available, that was a huge piece of it that attracted me to come back this way.
Yay.
Yeah.
Now, a question for you that I apologize, because I have been a parent of 2 middle schoolers, and now I have a middle schooler and a high schooler.
So I hear.
And when my daughter was preparing to transition to the high school had like open houses and, kind of like an overview of the high school process, and they have something very similar to what you were just talking about the social, emotional, academic, professional, all that, the well-rounded student.
Yep.
Does Marshall Simonds have something like that?
Not that we've been able to kind of roll out yet.
Okay.
It's a great question. It's something we've been talking about since I've gotten there.
Okay.
We have all the tools, the people, and the resources to have that conversation, and I think it's just been something that, I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say any predecessor hasn't attacked it. It's more a matter of, we expect.
It's just something new.
It's something new, and it really has developed. The state, if you look at DESE's, some of their new initiatives, there's a big push to have districts along the state come up with that graduate, portrait of a graduate, that portrait of skill building. It's really high school based for the most part, because that's where students are ending their academic careers.
Right.
But I've done some workshops. If I'm not mistaken, at Nipmuc High School, it's Mendon Upton Combined High School. There are co-principals out there, and those co-principals have been working with DESE on creating this almost like a
DESE. Acronym, DESE.
Department of Education for Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. I was thinking DESI.
DESE. Oh, sorry, DESE. My apologies.
Okay, no. It's just.
Anyways, long story longer, that is becoming more commonplace, that districts are starting to slowly compile this vision, right? And from that, you're having envision like an umbrella with 5 or 6 different pieces hanging off it, right? And each one of those pieces of umbrella has other skills. Then you look at it, what competencies are involved in those skills. And again, if you look at it from the mindset of, all right, we want our students to be technologically savvy. Well, what does that mean? Well, we want to be responsible with electronic devices, how to navigate, appropriate searches, how to
I like that, appropriate search.
how to handle social media, all that sort of, online bullying, cyberbullying, all those things. So and there's other categories that might be more just about civic awareness. What does it mean to be a citizen of this country? What does it mean to have opportunities to vote? So, that portrait is something that most districts now are tackling. And I know Burlington certainly has, as you just pointed out. And that's exciting to be part of something like that, because it really makes you take a step back and what are we looking at? So is it most important that our students get A's and B's in math and English? Or is it equally as important that they are leaving middle school being well-rounded young adults, and we teach the whole student, meaning that are we addressing those social emotional tenets?
Right.
Are we making sure that they understand why homework and accountability are important? That they understand the importance of a firm handshake and making eye contact and respecting adults, all that kind of stuff. So and that's exciting because end of the day, that's what we need to be sending out in the world, right? It would be great if every kid got an A in calculus. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Oh no, not calculus.
But I think we're going to use people skills more than calculus.
Right.
So I think it's finding that balance too, though.
Well, I've also noted, I just feel bad because my poor daughter went through all of her middle school years, starting in COVID. So by the time she transitioned, so I feel separated or, disconnected from the middle school, and I feel really bad about that. But you can't really change a global
The ship
pandemic.
has sailed. Yeah.
But I've also noticed that other programs do start in the high school as a pilot program and then trickle down. Recently, well, I don't know how recently, but the music programs started in the high school and then went to the middle school, and then it trickled down to the elementary schools. The robotics team started at the high school, trickled down to the middle school, and now they're thinking about introducing it. So I think everything comes at its right time.
That's fair. Yeah. It's hard to
10 years ago, who knew about, robotics teams at elementary schools?
Right. And to that note, so robotics, I had one of my teachers this summer who is doing robotics work at our building, and fantastic stuff, We actually, her classroom's kind of funky, so we actually moved some permanent furniture, was taken out this summer to make sure she had more room to do the robotics projects in the classroom and not the hallway, right? Because
Why not? No.
Right? Because we're getting more kids that want to be part of that, and that's cool. It is really cool, In my last meet and greet, several parents and stakeholders had expressed hey, we wish there was more clubs after school for some of our middle school students, And to be fair, I'm not even sure what's run every year, what hasn't run. And we're trying to look into that, and I know that there's an abundance of members of that staff that will be happy to work with kids after school on certain projects. And,
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the idea of having kids after school to focus on things that's their personal interest versus the forced academics, right?
Right.
And that also allows teachers to take the content and come to life in some different way, whether it be through art or music or robotics, that self-expression piece, So we're seeing more of that, which is cool. And I'm excited to see what we do in the next couple of years and see what other clubs pop up. I mean, my previous district, again, high school is different, but if a kid has an idea for a club, bring it to the administration, let's make it happen.
I think they're actually doing that here in the high school as well, with the flex blocks, and then eventually
Yeah. It's a nice initiative. It is. It's a lot. It's changing. It's evolving.
It is. Back, in the 1900s, when I went to high school, a lot of this stuff wasn't even heard of.
Right.
I didn't even have an email account until after I graduated from college. So, okay, anyway, moving right along. So let's back up a little bit, because I do want to talk about, the schools and your plans for the new school year.
Yeah.
But I'm also just kind of curious, and I don't know if we touched upon this already, but how does a school district go about hiring a new administrator?
It's a raffle, and every district does.
Whoever brings the best cookies to the interview.
My experience, every district does it differently. Most hiring committees for a principal, building principal, usually involve an initial committee made up of up to a dozen or more folks that represent parents, staff, and members of the community.
Okay.
In the case for me, this Marshall Simonds interview committee, the initial committee was about 16 of those folks.
Wow.
So members of the staff at Marshall Simonds, members of the administrative team in the district.
Wait, did you get interviewed by all 16 of these people at the same time?
Yeah.
And your head didn't explode? Wow.
No,
okay.
that's become, I mean, that's I'm used to that. That's the norm for these interview committees now. I've served on them, I've been part of them, I've been rejected by them, so you can run the gamut. But no, so the committee was comprised of about 16 folks, again, representing parents, staff, school committee members, and that sort of thing. And then the next round involved kind of doing some hours at the building itself, meeting with students, and then meeting with staff members separately, and then.
Now, do the students know you're interviewing for this position?
Yeah, they did a really cool job with it. When I got into the conference room, there were about 8 students who had some predetermined questions they made and worked with their guidance counselor on, and they were awesome. And they were direct questions. These weren't fluff, They weren't like, what's your favorite color,
I was going to say, if you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be?
Yeah, a cucumber, obviously, but it didn't come up. But, so, and then the final aspect, the final round of it was meeting with Dr. Chen and Dr. Conti, and then some additional folks at the central office level, and that's pretty standard operating procedure as far as interviews go, and the process involved in hiring a principal. Like I said, I've been part of it and seen it happen and seen it play out. So, you wish it was a little more expedited sometimes, because it can drag out, but every district wants to do the due diligence to make sure they get the right person. So.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to change your mind.
Yeah, once you commit, you're in it to win it. Yeah.
From both sides.
Correct.
Of the aisle. Okay. Once you were offered the position and accepted that position, did you go back to meet more staff members, or had you already met everybody in the interview process?
No, I mean, I'd met, and I say met, I'd spoken in front of maybe a percentage of the staff members, and looking at it now, it was probably half, maybe 2/3 initially, but that was a short stint in the library with a couple of directed questions, and that was kind of it, and that's fine. And I'm not downplaying that. It was just part of the process. And since that time, so I was offered the position around June 19th, June 20th. And I accepted it at that point. Dr. Conti went public a few days later. And then somewhere around June 26th, 27th, I participated in a district administrative workshop with all the other admins for the district. And that officially came to be part of the team on July 1st. And then since that time, my biggest goal for the year, and I think it's a question on there, but was just to meet people. I've been through this before where you don't know what you don't know, but the one thing you can get going on is ingratiate yourself to people you're going to work with. And that's been great. I mean, since July 1, I tried to look before I came here and try to count, but I've probably met individually, one-on-one, or in small group setting with well over half the staff by now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I still have more folks. I mean, this week it's been, what I did, I simply emailed staff around July 2nd and said, hey, here's who I am. You've probably heard my name by now. Love to get to know you. I sent us a Google Doc. Here are some times, dates I'm available. Just sign up and come on in. And they've been doing that.
So you were already familiar with everything Google.
Very much so. Yeah. If you're an educator coming out of COVID and you couldn't navigate Google, then you missed the boat somewhere. You know?
Well, I wasn't sure if every school system.
Yeah, most have gone that route. Yeah. Once we went digital and had to go virtual, that was kind of the most common place. Not everyone, but I can speak for most experiences. And so and that's been the summer. A lot of it has been between interviewing for some staff members. We needed to have fill some gaps in, but otherwise it's been spent just putting an hour aside, and folks come to my office and we just have a kind of just this.
Have your meet and greets been also at the school, or
Yeah, those are evenings. Those are like 5 to 7 o'clock at night. And those have been at the building as well. We just use one of the corridors. They're natural lighting, and again, I've emailed folks that there's no formal program, so come in anytime you like and grab a water, grab a treat, and some folks have been up, hey, I met, quick handshake, nice to meet you. Others have stayed 5-10 minutes and had a conversation. A couple folks have come back for follow-up conversations. They're new to the district, or it's their first kid. I mean, the first folks I met at the last meet and greet, they're new to the country. And they have students coming into our school, and They had more questions, so we're going to meet again next week. So they had more questions. I'm like, yeah, come on back. But that's the whole point. I'd rather just let's have that so that their kids, especially, can come to school not being overwhelmed by this big change.
Oh, yeah, because
middle school's tough as it is, right? So why add, so and that's been rewarding. It's been well worth the investment in time and meeting the staff there. And now I'm biased saying this, but the staff is incredible. And one question I ask most everybody I meet is, what do you love about this place? And there's always a pause, like, oh, where do I start? I think the biggest, most universal consensus is they love the school community.
Okay.
So I feel fortunate that's why I'm walking into that,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's been fun. Yeah, it has been. It is cool. Yeah, it is fun.
Right. So I think we already touched upon this, but other than middle school versus high school, what kind of differences do you see the middle school in Burlington role compared to either Waltham or
North Middlesex?
Yeah.
As far as middle school, just
just in middle
dynamics?
school or your role.
I mean, kids are kids no matter what.
Okay.
Okay. Behaviors, positive, negative, growing pains. It's fairly universal.
Okay.
From 6 to 12, not predictable, but universal, right? Day to day is always a kind of a guessing game, if you will. As far as my role goes, it's pretty synonymous, or I think comparable, no matter what the rank is, or what the level is. You're there to support staff. You're there to keep students safe and make sure the school community is functioning and communicating well. At the end of the day, is every day, am I going to be in a classroom every single day? I hope so. I hope I'm in at least a couple classrooms per day. I love being in classrooms. I love being in the cafeteria.
Especially the science classes when they're going to blow stuff
every
up.
Every class is fun. But yes, science in particular, when they blow things up or they dissect something. You're right. Those are the days I always say, if you're going to cut something open, let me know. But usually you can smell it in the hall before it happens.
No,
I mean, it's fairly universal. Again, every school is different. Every kid is different.
Well, I wasn't sure, Tingsboro seems...
Townsend,
yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Townsend seems small.
Yeah.
And Waltham seems big, and Burlington seems kind of in the middle. So I just wasn't sure if...
Yeah, I mean, I from my experience in the past couple decades, everything's scalable, but you're going to run into the same situations. You're going to have kids that have bad days. You're going to have teachers that have tough days. But when it comes down to it, my role as the principal is to make sure that everyone has what they need. I work for the teachers more than anything else. I work to make sure that they're able to do the presentation of content in a way that all learners have access to the curriculum. If students distract them, we try to redirect and try to do our best to modify the behaviors that are distracting the learning environment. End of the day, though, most kids are very teachable, and most kids want to be taught, and structure is part of that, End of the day, my vision of school community is everyone knows their role, and we can support each other with that. And that involves parents, students, and and staff. It's not just drop the bus off, kids get off, and that's see you at 2 o'clock. It's more than that, And we have to work on creating an identity of what Marshall Simonds we want us to be as a school and as a school community. And that's exciting, though. That's a really exciting part, because we get to hear from the kids and what do they want. I've heard from staff a lot, and I've heard from what staff are hoping I do, and a lot of stuff I ask, like, what's one thing you want from me this year? And they say visibility, humility. Then the ask isn't big. And that's part of
it could be for some people.
It could be. But the team mentality, I've always been part of a team. I've always liked being on a team. And good teams can focus on a shared goal. Right, and the best teams can work towards that. You can overcome differences to work towards that goal, and our goal is to make sure every kid is successful. And success is different for every kid, how we measure that, right? Some kids is measured in grades, the quantitative piece. For other students, that success is qualitative, but then that's the fun part, though, right? So
and then there's a whole conversation about standardized tests that we're not going to go into.
Oh, good. We can avoid that tonight. Lovely. Appreciate that.
That's a whole other.
But yeah, no. So to circle back to your question, I really do think that, regardless of the environment, whether it be suburban, rural, or urban, middle school, high school, kids are kids, and to build meaningful relationships with them and to give them a chance to be successful. Let them see what they're capable of and get to know them. If you're willing to invest in the kids, the investment usually comes back and reciprocates. Not always, but it's worth a shot.
Hey, what have you got to lose?
Nothing.
Okay, with your meet and greets.
Yes.
I'm curious if that is something that you're doing not just because, but because you're new and you want to say, hey, look, I'm the new guy, or if this is going to be incorporated into your style where you'll do it, because every year you're going to get,
New folks.
a few hundred new families.
Yeah, so in my previous district, I started doing coffee hours with parents during the academic day and during the academic year. That was my first year, then COVID hit. So I became principal in the fall of 19, COVID hit in the spring of 20, yada, yada.
Longest 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah, right? So, but something I want to kind of continue, because to your point, you make a really good point. Middle school is a transition time, and keeping that dialogue going. So my plan is to continue to do probably quarterly coffee hours, at least once per season, during the academic day. Or evenings. I haven't really figured that out yet, but I know I do want to answer your question. I want to keep it going year round.
Okay.
Because things will come up, and sometimes an email home, whether it be, I don't know, intramural sports, end of term grades, a change in the course catalog. Those things sometimes are better conveyed in conversation than they are in email. So I think giving parents and guardians and students a forum to have a face-to-face conversation might benefit all of us. Now, I might offer a coffee hour or meet and greet and I get no attendees. If that happens, then you re-examine the process. But as of right now, my plan going into the academic year is to continue them at least once per quarter, see where you go.
Cool. Because I'm thinking, there are parents like me where, that ship has sailed. My son is entering 8th grade. I'm like, I really don't need to be vested as much in the middle school as had you not be the principal. Your child is going to be entering that school, so your approach to how does the middle school work would be much different than mine. So that's kind
very
of
much
why
so.
I was...
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and I think knowing again, having a 5th grader, knowing there are a lot of folks like me that have your oldest kid is in 5th grade right now. I know a lot of 5th grade parents. They ask a lot of questions.
Right.
And that's part of my catalyst to keep this going, because a good dialogue, if we're going to model for kids the art of conversation, right? Doing more of this is going to benefit than doing more of this.
Right.
So
or
that's
texting.
Correct. Yeah, right. Another, yeah. So yeah, I mean,
use
I
complete
see,
sentences, people.
Yeah, I see no downside to offering a forum for conversation. If folks want to take me up on it, great. But I'm also big on, I don't hide from conversation. So throughout the academic year, if there's a question, I'm more apt to invite them in for dialogue than I am to get in a back and forth on a long email. It's just more my style, and I know email's convenient, but so is a quick conversation at 7 a.m. or 4 p.m.
Right. An email that says, call me when you have a chance.
Correct.
We need to talk about boop, boop, boop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. Exactly.
Instead of just call me.
Right. And those meet and greets and coffee hours kind of speak to that interaction. Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Oh, wait, you had said something and it triggered another question and me another tangent.
We can come back to it.
Yeah, I know.
We have 4 hours, right? The 4 hours were allotted?
Sure.
Right.
Or we'll just have to talk to the producer and see if we could get a sequel.
Okay.
Okay, we touched upon this a little bit. Curriculum development. Actually, I think I just remembered my question, but let's talk about curriculum development.
Sure.
How much impact do administrators have on what is taught in the schools?
Some, and not that much, and then a lot. How's that? So let's break it down.
It's great, but I would like you to elaborate a little bit.
All right. The state has frameworks for us. State frameworks in what they call Mass Core. So your history, science, math, ELA kind of follow basic standardized formula the state presents for us.
Okay. Is that something like in 10th grade, high school students have to learn about U.S. government?
Correct. So if you're looking at high school, your history for high school, like usually 9th grade is World History Part 2, 10th grade US 1, 11th grade US 2.
Okay.
That's mapped out. Massachusetts actually has outstanding frameworks to work with, some of the best in the country, if not the best. So you don't mind building curriculum around those standards and frameworks.
Okay.
The standards themselves are sometimes learning-based goals and skills kids need to have, whether it be in the area of research and civic awareness, like history, math, is a little more convoluted and more complex. I'll come back to that, because that's the most recent one we're talking about. So to answer part of your question, how much impact does a building administrator have on content and curriculum? It depends on how much you want to get involved in it. In Burlington we have At the middle school, we have some program coordinators in our content areas that help facilitate conversation around curriculum, around textbook adoption, around bringing in, new literature, new literary pieces for YA pieces. There's been some changes in the science curriculum that I learned about just today, or talking with one of my teachers. Some good stuff, and also some things that they want to modify based on their own practices, which is great because you can take a hybrid piece and then use ancillary materials. We have some folks in the district level. I mean, Dr. Chen is doing lots of positive work with curriculum. She's been looking at areas that might need updating or might not, but just doing a thorough exam and kind of like an in-house, where are we type situation, which I think is helpful because in her role, she can take a really bird's eye view over all the curriculum district-wide and then work with stakeholders to figure out what we need to do, beef things up, improve things, modify, if you will.
Now, does that also play a role in the scaffolding that you talked about? Like,
it could, certainly. If you're looking at a certain curriculum and you're looking at the portrait of a graduate, portrait of a learner, you might be able to embed some of those skills into that curriculum development, no question. Yeah. And in my current role, as far as my vision for the building and part of what I'm looking at curriculum-wise, this year the biggest initiative we're looking at is in math.
Okay.
It is a top-down process, but it's something that I've been to some workshops already with the district leadership involved in this, and really right now, math. There's a discussion right now about bringing Algebra 1 to 8th grade.
Okay. I already was in 8th grade, but
there's aspects of algebra in 8th grade, right? So it's a bigger discussion. That's a longer one that we don't have time for tonight. But from an initiative standpoint, we're going to
that'll go along with the discussion on the value of standardized tests.
Yes, yeah. But I actually think this has more merit.
Okay.
It has a better impact on our students, short term and long term. But for this year, from my bird's eye view of our building, Marshall Simonds, my goal curriculum-wise is to take a look and see what we're doing. Okay. I am very comfortable and have a great knowledge base of really the humanities in middle school, world language. I'm very comfortable with history, ELA. I've worked with it. I've worked with curriculum development with colleagues over the years. The science is evolving in a good way. Again, I learned today from a couple of my staff members what they've been doing in science, what they love, what they'd like to tweak, and what we have resources for that.
Okay.
So that's always an indication to me that teachers are invested. If they're asking questions about curriculum in the summertime, A, they usually want to do some tweaking, but B, they're invested in the process, right? So now I'll be diving.
See, they need a new hobby. No.
Right. So I'll be going to those classrooms and taking a look. And again, so, in a year from now, I think you ask that question again, I'd have a different response for you.
Okay.
Because I think for now, I know for now, my goal around curriculum is to take a good look, see what we're doing, and to support teachers if they want to change things.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And I do know that our curriculum aligns with state standards very well. And I don't have an inkling to go any certain content area to examine that more closely at the time. But that's just going to come through like listening and learning this year. Okay. That's part of what I'm looking for. That's why I go into classrooms. You're looking for those standards. You're looking for the benchmarks. Where are we at? And I don't put, I'm not a content expert in every area. So I know, right? Oh. So it'd be unfair of me to go off into a science class and say, why'd you do it that way?
Yeah.
There's a better way to get to the bottom of those conversations and to be open-minded about what the experts are doing in their respective fields. You know what I mean? So.
Did Massachusetts recently, so probably like within the last 5 to 10 years, because I'm in a time warp, did they redo the science curriculum? Because for some reason, I vaguely remember the Burlington Science Center being involved in curriculum analysis and curriculum development. Or am I just dreaming?
No, I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I can make up a
Have you been to the Science Center?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, that I can attest to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very cool. No, I mean, I do know that the state is always re-examining frameworks for the content areas. I know that, for example, the first time they updated the health standards and health and wellness was this year. Last time updated in 1999.
They were due.
That I can speak to. And there's always been dialogue of history will become another MCAS subject matter. So is it possible that science has been retweaked and updated the past couple of years? It's very possible.
Okay.
But from my previous district, working with my, mainly grade 9 biology students and the feeder they had coming in, that had been pretty standard the past 5 or 6 years in both North Middlesex and in Waltham. So I haven't seen much change in the middle school curriculum for science.
Just
But
curious.
I might learn tomorrow that I was wrong, that there's been a lot of change. But from what I can tell, curriculum might change, resources might change, but the content being covered is pretty standard at this point.
Because it's been the same since 1999. No.
No, I can't speak to that. That's your rumor, not my rumor.
Yeah, no. I'm just making that up because the whole health and wellness
Of
thing.
course,
But anyway,
I follow you.
So I think I remembered what I was wondering with the meet and greets.
Yeah.
And students and families just starting their middle school career.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember thinking way back when with the whole schedule, the team thing and the
Sure.
rotating, today's a day one, and everybody's like, well, why wouldn't Monday not be a day one?
Could be day 6.
It could be a day 6, but it's like, everybody on Facebook go, well, you could tell who had a middle schooler and who didn't, because they're like, okay, what is tomorrow? And people are like, Tuesday? Other people are like, it's a day 4.
It's a day 4.
Or
right?
whatever.
Yep.
And so is that something that is either unique to Burlington? Is it something that is statewide? What's the purpose of it?
Of the schedule?
Of the rotating and the 6-day thing?
It is not unique to Burlington.
Okay.
Every district has their own schedules.
Okay.
I happen to, just by chance, not because I'm biased, but I happen to really like the middle school, the way the schedule rotates.
Okay.
Even though it's a 6-day, my previous district I was on a 7-day.
Okay.
So I'm used to that.
Okay.
I grew up as a kid on a 5-day. It's Monday, it's Tuesday. I grew up on that, right? And
I grew up with first period is European history. Doesn't matter what day.
Yeah, exactly. More and more in the past few years, I've seen schools that do like block scheduling where they have 90-minute blocks in 4 of those a day.
Okay.
That to me seems archaic, right? Because you're assuming kids have an attention span of 90 minutes. That's so lofty.
I know.
Whereas 53.
I don't even have an attention span of 90 minutes.
I know, but our 4-hour segment's going to be so good. No, so the schedule we have at the middle school, I have watched parents for years. This goes back to when I first taught middle school back in 2002, 2003.
Okay.
At open house, I try to explain the schedule to parents who are not in education, and it's humbling. It's kind of like if you and I are trying to do some calculus right now, right? We're going to try to solve for x and ab squared, all that stuff.
Okay.
We're not getting anywhere.
No.
And the past few years at the high school level, an open house night, we'd give out the schedules to parents. Let's say, okay, you're going to follow the A, then B, then C. If you look, and then E, and you're going to see the stairs. So
glazed. Deer in headlights.
the way I look at schedules, we help the kids navigate the schedule.
Okay.
If the parents really want a tutorial, we can certainly provide that. I'm not trying to be facetious. Kids are so much more malleable than their parents are, myself included. I will fall on that sword as well. I recently learned last year, my daughter was in 4th grade doing like long division multiplication, and they've changed the way we do that. So I had to go online and research how to do the multiplication. They were doing it. So the schedule we have, I think, is impactful and positive.
Okay.
The rotating piece, I think, is also impactful because having the same group of kids, you can look at it both ways. With the teacher lens, I see kids different times a day. I see them when they're at their best, sometimes they're worst, they're fatigued, they're up, they're down, before lunch, after lunch. There's something to be said for that.
Right.
Student, same thing. If you're not a morning person, you have math every day at 7:45, there you go.
Kill me now.
So, there are positives to that,
Okay.
And ultimately, parents can be confused, but as long as the kids get it, we're doing right by them. Is it an adjustment? Yes. And does it? We have an orientation next week. Okay.
Okay. Use the color-coded schedules to explain it to parents.
We have 8th grade students, about 70 8th grade students.
Are they still doing the web thing? Okay.
Yeah. So that's next Thursday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Okay.
We have about 70 students. Mr. Concession and Ms. Crowley kind of run that show. I'll be part of it, but it's really student run. That's when our incoming 6th graders get a little snapshot of the schedule. I think it's like anything else. They're more adaptable to change than we are. When I pick up my 4-year-old to daycare and he knows to run to his cubby, sign out, do all this stuff, if we teach them the right way and help create the habits, it just takes care of itself.
Right.
Even if we had a slide deck right now, you and I could spend a half an hour on trying to show folks how the schedule rotates. Teachers at home will be like, that makes sense, sure.
Yeah.
Kids will be like, yeah, that makes sense. Even sixth graders will probably get it, you know. So to kind of come back to your question, I think the schedule to me is great the way it is. I like the rotation. It is not something even on my radar that we have to change and impact, because I do feel like the timing of the day, how it circulates, and mixing up the time the kids see their teachers. You know, you've seen your core subjects 4 out of 6 days, sometimes 5 based on the rotation, and then your allied arts and things of that nature. You're seeing 2 out of the 6 day rotation. It's impactful. You get good screen time, good face time. You look at the hours of learning, 53-minute blocks. You look at the end of the year. When you look at the hours they had of instructional time, it's really a really nice model for our school.
Cool.
Now, could someone come in and say, I have a better idea? Probably. Maybe. I don't know. But knowing what I know about scheduling and knowing what I know about how kids' brains work, I think we're in a good spot with our schedule.
Excellent.
Yeah, I do feel that.
And I'm sure the reminders, today is a day 3 on like every classroom door.
Every morning, every announcement, when they walk in the building off the bus, getting breakfast, it's you know, it's day 3.
love it.
It's day 3, you know.
I love it.
And do we expect kids to get lost and confused in the first 2 weeks? Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's okay. They'll get it.
Okay, you mentioned allied arts.
Yeah.
There's always a debate, always a discussion about the value of music and arts in the curriculum. I know this is a really open-ended question, but what are your thoughts on allied arts or performing arts or?
Critical to any good school. You're talking to a guy that was in the band.
Yes.
Starting in 4th grade, all through high school, alto saxophone. Admittedly, haven't played in quite some time, but one of my staff members plays in a band and is really hounding me to get that saxophone cleaned up. So, but
This isn't your science teacher, Mr. Marino, is it?
I don't want to throw him under the bus, but yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So,
Well, he was just on the Common performing
he was. I
in his
saw him. I
band.
saw him on August 3rd. We saw him. I got a bumper sticker and everything.
Okay.
I had texted him saying, "I'm coming to the Common. I'd like to play tambourine with your band tonight," and he never invited me up on stage. So, I'm still dealing with that letdown. Music, art, drama, performing
It always
arts.
seems like the first thing to get cut.
It to me is it should be the last thing we're cutting, and I say that because, and not to patronize or to make this answer sound anything other than honest. For many kids, the best part of the day is art and music class. You take your most exuberant extrovert, your shyest introvert. There's a sense of belonging when they get to an art room or music room sometimes. And when schools start cutting that, you start losing identity in a safe place for kids. Huge advocate of the arts. You know, in my previous district, even going through budget cuts, my former superintendent was adamant, we're not touching music and art. He saw the same vision that I saw.
Okay.
And I think you have also with that, also have good advocates and parents that see the value in marching band, for example, right? Or some schools are too small, a pep band. There's value in that. You're giving certain students a place to feel comfortable in self-express. Music, drama, that's self-expression, right? You know, even selfishly, my daughter was in Matilda this summer, right? In the ensemble, and did the best camp, right? Both my kids did the best camp. That's a niche for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Just like athletics is for other kids, and some kids do both. I did bands and I did baseball and basketball in high school, and I know the students in our schools that are playing sports, juggling it as a part-time job, and then playing the clarinet.
Yep.
You know, and if we start looking at that as being non-essential, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're cutting short our kids' ability to be creative. In my office, I have artwork from students that have created over the years. Like in my former district, these are art shows and a silent auction. And every year I would buy 1, 2, 3 pieces of art that I put in my office, and they've come down to Burlington with me now. So they're in my office now. So
I love it.
and that's just not for show. I mean, like, I think it's cool when kids create cool art, you know, whether it be something ceramic based or just, you know, watercolor, charcoal. But, you know, performance based art, equally as important as a creative piece, right? And that also carries over to industrial art too. You know, let's not forget things like robotics. photography. You know, that's another self-expression for students. So, and again, to embed that in the 6-period day where 4 periods a day our students are doing their core subjects, but 2 periods a day they're out doing something exploratory. And that's huge. And you know, if that leads students to choose, you know, Shawsheen for high school, that's okay. We want kids to pursue something they're passionate about, right? And that's where clubs and activities after school kick in too. Because having a Minecraft club or Dungeons and Dragons club, chess club, that falls under art. You know, we shouldn't be discouraging that. You know, and even, you know, coding.
Okay.
You know, computer science. Yes, it's a science, but you can't tell me there's not a creative, artistic piece to that when kids are making websites or building video games. You know.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, video games have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Yeah, right. So I'm a big advocate of the arts and that whole art umbrella. You know, and you know, fortunately in Burlington, you know, budget cuts around, those discussions aren't happening here. And I think there's so much investment in the community to let that happen. I had a dialogue today with one of our staff members about trying to put a musical on for the middle school this year.
Cool.
They started a drama club last year. They, meaning our staff, started a drama club last year.
Oh, I love it.
So there's an year 2 of drama club coming up. Last year, I learned today that they did some monologues last year. Not much of a budget for that, so we were discussing fundraising.
Is that like the same as the Poetry Out Loud thing, or?
No, a little different altogether.
Okay.
So we were talking today just about fundraising activities involving for the drama club at the middle school, and that's just a piece of the puzzle that I learned about again 10 hours ago, that we had a drama club and that teacher that passionately runs it and wants to do more and expand that. And we just hired a new music teacher who's going to teach general music and also choral, and that person has a great musical theater background and works with youth musical theaters in the North Shore. So that could be another niche for more kids coming up to the middle school. Like, geez, I got to find what am I passionate about? What do I like? Right. And again, they can do chorus for a semester and figure out if they like to sing. Okay. They can pick up an instrument in middle school and still pursue that. You know, and I feel like our staff is very passionate about that and wants to grow that because they see what the high school kids. I mean, if anyone saw Matilda and saw what the kids did in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
You know, just some remarkable things that the kids are capable of. And that's just one example that I've been privy to as a parent.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, I'm excited about that, but definitely big support of the arts, and I think it should never be on the table for a conversation about cutting that.
I love it. Okay, we only have like 5 minutes left, believe it or not.
Of the first hour.
Of the first hour, yeah,
Right.
but then, you know, then we have to get
break for
off
snacks and so on. Yeah,
exactly.
okay, that's fine.
What are your plans? And this is kind of like a 2-part question that you can take. We can go to a sequel if we have to. What are your specific personal, Mr. McMahon, goals for this academic year? And then what do you see, what direction do you want to see happen for Marshall Simonds Middle School in the next 5 years?
Okay. This year, and I actually did type out, you know, when Dr. Chen and I had a meeting like a couple weeks ago about an entry plan.
Okay.
And, you know, part of the entry plan is kind of year 1 goals, right? July 1 to July 1. Where are we a year from now?
Okay.
If I'll look at that part of the question first. I'm already in the process of doing part of that goal. That's meeting staff and meeting the community, right?
Okay.
Getting out there, putting myself out there, answering questions, being open to feedback. Because I've learned educators want to be heard and validated, and I value that. That's not just smoke and mirrors. That's how I want to feel. When I was in the classroom, I wanted to feel like that I mattered, you know, because I worked hard in the classroom. You know, those are the people in the trenches every day doing the hard, dirty work. And again, we're there to support them, and that's why I feel like I work for the teacher. So this year, I want to demonstrate to my staff and students that I'm there for them. So if I break down your question about a year 1 goal, year 1 objective, listen and learn a lot.
Okay.
There are things I don't know yet. I do know Marshall Simonds is not broken. Therefore, there's not a lot of fixing to do.
Okay.
You know, I've told everyone I've met this summer in confidence that I'm not looking to make big changes. I'm not touching the teams we have structured right now. I'm not touching the schedule. I'm adding bells, though. Bells between classes. I like bells. There's no bells. There's no bells. There's a beginning bell, end bell.
Really?
Bells give structure. Bell tells us we should be someplace.
Okay.
And 3-minute passing time is adequate. If I can walk the end of the building in 3 minutes, so can a 6th grader. But to get more direct to it, I want to be in a lot of classrooms. I want to give a lot of positive feedback, constructive feedback to teachers. I want to make sure that we're doing activities that make kids and staff happy acknowledging positive achievement, towing a line of respect and demonstrating proper behavior, modifying that through restorative justice practices best we can, not being afraid to have difficult conversations. And I said to some folks this week, we have to get people being more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And really focusing on getting our staff to be a team. Our school community is a team. And if we're all working together for that common goal, like I said earlier, we're working towards the success of our students. If that's a shared goal we have, getting there shouldn't be a battle, it should be a team activity, you know, and a shared responsibility. Looking more long-term, that's kind of my year one.
Okay.
And what I've done every year as a principal the past 5 years and now 10 years in administration, starting in September, I have a list of summer goals. So let's say, for example, we do the first 2 weeks of school, and I say, okay, next year I want to do this. I have a list going on my computer that I start September, October, that is my summer list for 25.
Okay.
Because there's certain things you can't change on the fly.
No.
If they're dramatic enough, you intervene and make some adjustments, you know, almost as a Band-Aid. But the long-term goal, and I'm glad you asked that, because I do want to be here long-term. This isn't like, I'm not looking as a stepping stone. Marshall Simonds is where I want to be and invest my next 12 years. That's would be my dream, to pursue that and be part of this community in that capacity.
Cool. That wasn't where I was going.
No.
Okay.
But ultimately, what I envision for our building is continue to focus and celebrate the successes we have in our building, and then slowly look at what we need to modify and adapt. Like I said, what I've learned thus far, we have passionate staff and really great kids and parents that care. Okay, that's an awesome recipe for a success soup, right? How do we all come together? You know, so I think, you know, continuing to unify people and bring it together. But ultimately, if I had a crystal ball, 5 years from now, I want to be able to say that we every year Marshall Simonds has students that are respectful, demonstrate civic responsibility, are trustworthy, work together, and celebrate being different, and also while we're all, you know, fun together. And then they go off and do great things as adults. I think the testament's going to be asking kids in 5 years who are leaving BHS, hey, what's your best middle school takeaway? And I think that would be a good way to assess our success level, you know?
Yeah.
And also in that realm, kind of lastly, would be, and I meant what I said earlier, success is measured different ways. You know, and if each kid, as we individualize the whole student meaning that their academic well-being, their social, emotional, their physical, their health and, you know, mindset, what we do to support them and give them the tools they need to not need us down the road. So, is it a blurred vision? No. Is it somewhat utopian? A little bit. But like I said, you know, we can look at content, curriculum, instructional practices. That's something we can look at as a staff and talk about, share best practices, and look at what the state is asking of us to do, and then re-examine our practices and see what we're doing well, what we modify. But a lot of that teachers are doing every year. If we give teachers a space to work together and to reflect upon their craft and share best practices, we're just there to kind of be a conduit for that conversation and facilitate it. We don't need to be the ones that, you know, disperse edicts on how they should do things and do them better. The experts are already in the field, we're just going to support them. So, yeah, I mean, if we come back in a year from now and have the same conversation, we can definitely reflect upon this conversation in our 3-hour special.
Exactly.
Imagine that'll be a huge hit in the community, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
The sponsorships. But did that answer your question, though? I hope it did.
Yes, it did. Well,
right.
also because we are out of time for our first hour.
Which is regrettable, but that's okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm
this was awesome.
Really excited now about, I know my kids are going to hate me, but I'm really excited about the start of school.
Me too.
So thank you very much for your willingness to join me. Thank you very much for accepting this role and giving up your Wednesday night to come hang out at BCAP.
All good. Appreciate it.
And I also want to thank everyone at home for tuning in this evening. I hope you are looking forward to the beginning of the new school year and building that support, building that vision for a better Burlington community. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great night, and I'll see you around town. Good night.